Okay, picking up where we left off, we're on page 271, talking about image text replacement. So I'm pretending like this is a button, although clearly it's not. And so I'm going to put some text in here saying, feeding Annie. All right. So now I have some text. So what I want this thing to do is, when I get this thing going, and this is a button that I want you to click on, I can't see this, so I want this text to kind of represent that thing. So let me show you what it looks like. And so what I want is, I want this to go away. I want it to be there, but not visible. It's associated with this guy, so screen readers can read it. And so they would know, oh, I'm supposed to click here. Okay, that kind of stuff. Got it. Well, the way you do that, the easy way to make text just disappear is basically, this is going to be a little funky, and I know, I promise you this is weird. Basically, you go until the indent for that guy is just, oops, sorry. I'm going to go to this guy, and I'm going to change its indent property. Well, let me spell it right. So text indent. Text indent. And I'm going to give it an outrageous number, okay? Like minus 99999 pixels. What it's basically going to do, it's going to take that text and just shift it over until it can't possibly show up. Isn't that pretty cool? This is a way to have hidden text that will not display, but exists. Isn't that pretty cool? Let's run this. And that text ain't there. Now, screen readers will still be able to spot it, and search bots will still be able to spot it, but you won't be able to see it. So, if there was text here that said, I don't know, press me, well then they'd still be able to see it, hear it say, press me. Cool. So that's how you get around having text inside buttons. Basically, the real answer is don't put text inside buttons. And I'll go ahead and tell you the reason why. Text inside buttons works really great if everybody visiting your web page reads English. If they don't, if you had 5 different languages for your website, you would need 5 different buttons that say next, and 5 different buttons that said previous. That's why most people just use a little arrow thing for like next and previous and stop. They use graphic glyphs, so there's no words, so I don't have to go translate things. Got it? Okay, good. All right. So there are ways you can, there's a thing called positioning. And positioning basically means, do I want this thing, whatever it is, to stick to the surrounding, or do I want it to move around? And so on page 276, they talk about the position property. There's a table, 6.6, to talk about 4 different techniques, essentially. Static, which means the normal flow. Fixed, which means kind of stay put. Relative. Now, relative is one of those where, here's how relative works. Relative says, wherever the hell this thing would go to normally, add something. So it normally would appear here, so move it over 5. That's what that means. Relative means wherever it would have normally shown up, tweak it a little bit. There's another one called absolute. And absolute says, starting at the upper left-hand corner, you're going to tell it precisely, exactly where it's going to go. God almighty, don't ever do that. Because if I was to go here and minimize my my screen, it could go right off the screen and you'd never see it. So that's a dumb idea. So right off the bat, never, ever, 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 ever use absolute. I can't imagine of a legitimate use of absolute. But I'm going to go back to this guy. And I'm going to show this guy one more time. Okay. Well, actually, here. All right, here we go. So This is just using the normal everyday default. Okay, this would be called static. So everything in here moves with the scroll bar. Okay, nothing fancy. But, this is kind of important, right? This little, so if I scroll all the way down at the bottom, well, where's my nav? Well, it kind of went out of view, didn't it? Well, there's a way you can fix that. So I'm going to go to here. I'm going to go to this guy. And so I'm going to use position fixed on my nav guy. Only on my nav guy, now nowhere else. Okay, so position fixed means don't move around. That's all it means. Okay? All right, here we go. I'm going to run this thing one more time. Oh, not from there. I'm not. Yeah, that's one of the weird things. When you do this right-click launch thing in Visual Studio, it only works on HTML because there's no way to launch a CSS file. And also, you have to remember to save that CSS file when you pop over. It's a little odd, but hey, bear with me. All right, I'm going to scroll. You guys ready? Isn't that pretty cool? It stayed put. Now, yes, this does make the web page a little easier to operate, I'll admit, because the nav structure stays where it is. Personally, I don't like it. I can't explain why. I don't like it. Don't know why. I just don't like it. So I don't ever use it. Although I must admit, it does make the website a little easier to get to if you can always see the nav. It's just personal preference. So using fixed kind of means wherever the hell it ended up, it's going to stay there. That's cool. Relative means where it would have normally ended up but scooted over a little bit. And then absolute, don't bother. Absolute means whatever the coordinate system is on your browser, that's going to, if you told it I want it in the 1010, it's going to appear right here outside the width, it's going to violate everything inside here and put it exactly right there, 10 pixels from the top and 10 pixels from the bottom. Don't do that. That's dumb. Okay. We're almost done. On page 280, they talk about the debugging things. Now, we've done this before. We've gone to that validator guy. Remember that? Pardon me. So validator W3, remember this guy, right? So I can just pop in stuff. There's even another one that's designed specifically for doing CSS. Okay, so I'm gonna, in fact, hey, this will be a good one. I'm gonna use this monstrously big guy, all right? I'm gonna light this all up because this has got a lot of stuff in it that we haven't covered in the book yet. I'm just gonna say copy. I'm gonna pop over here to my CSS guy, paste it in here, and see how well I did. Wow, cool! I'm validated at CSS level 3. So yes. You should be able to go through and do this. What I just did is I grabbed that embedded or external, copy and pasted it. But to tell you the truth, if you have an awful lot of inline, you're basically going to have to just paste everything in there. Okay. So one of the techniques they talk about when you're trying to debug stuff is, run through the validation. That's one. And the other is what we did. We put colors in here. So while you're particularly working with positioning blocks, go ahead and use some colors, because otherwise you're going to be looking at it going, I don't get it. So put some colors in, get blocks the way you want them, and then after you're done, take the colors out, and poof, you're good to go. That's what I typically do. Another way is to use borders, and again, use different colored borders. You don't have to, but don't make them all black, because then if they were overlapping, you wouldn't be able to tell which one was which. If you had different colors, you'd be able to tell. Comments. Back over here on this other guy, I have lots of comments in here. I start off with, this is the main page. Put a scroll bar up. This is a fixed width page centered at the border, and stuff like that. I want it smaller, italics, and center things, blah 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 blah. Lots of little comments in here, and the comments start with /*, and then asterisk slash. This works inside external and it works inside, you know, the embedded stuff. Not really all that practical inside inline, but you could do it. I mean, I don't see it very often, but hey, okay, like this. If I wanted to just temporarily make that go away, I would have to actually put it inside the quotes, okay? I know, it's going to look stupid, but give me a break. Okay, so I've commented out that guy. Okay, again, I most people just don't, they don't do it in inline. It works, but just don't. On page 282, they talk about some of the new structural elements. Now, we've used a handful. We've used main and nav and footer, okay? But there's more. There's section and article and aside and time. On page 282, this is not tough concepts. I'm not going to go over it. You can read the book just as good as I can. Not tough concepts. On page 284, they talk about HTML compatibility, and oh boy, have we discovered a few already. One is IE don't like this main guy. Okay, so to fix this, we're going to go to the very top and add the things it talks about there on page 284. Basically, we're going to teach the systems how to use those new structural elements for browsers that don't know what structural elements are. So I'm going to go here and say header, comma. By the way, comma in the selector list means the same thing as, so there's like 5 or 6 things in a row. So header, and no particular order, but I'm going to do header, nav, main, and footer. And then I'm going to tell them display these things as blocks. Display as a block. Okay, that's it. So I'm going to convert this thing to now run Internet Explorer, and I'm going to do this and view it in Internet Explorer, and ta-da! It now works. Hooray! We have fixed Internet Explorer. Admittedly, the HTML5 constructs have been around. It was converted to a recommendation. Ooh, what does that mean? Recommendation? In 2014. Okay, so we're not talking about, well, in computer world, that's ancient history, okay? That's ancient. And if your browser don't work, well, shame on your browser, okay? But yes, you do have to deal with exceptions. There's a thing called a shim, where some very bright people have created some JavaScript that you can insert in your thing, and using a technique which it's in the book, but we're not ready to talk about it yet. Where there's like an if statement. If you're using Internet Explorer, whatever, 9, that doesn't handle this stuff, then load this JavaScript file, which will give it more functionality and kind of simulate everything to make it work with HTML5. So that, again, is there in the book. I'm not going to do that here, but it works. The only real downside to that is it forces your customers to enable JavaScript, which most people have on. I want to show you a couple more things, but we're out of time. I promise it'll be just a minute after this.